Hello everyone, my name is Pacha and welcome back to another episode of Tiergarten Edelwald. This time a little bit of a shorter episode because most of the surrounding stuff was already there, so we just have to fill in basically the habitat that we are building today, and that is for the red-crowned crane, our second animal and our last animal also for our little Japanese area that we started last episode with the Tanuki, the raccoon dog. A really cool episode, really cool build. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend doing so. And this time we are building for the bird that we got with the Wetlands Animal Pack, which released I think 3 years ago or so. It feels like a long time. Definitely has been a while since we got that bird. So, and it only was fitting for this area because both of these animals have a lot of meaning in the Japanese culture. More on that later. But before we start talking about the habitat and the red-crowned crane itself, I want to talk about a little bit of a story time here of me building this habitat. It's also sometimes interesting, I guess. And that is that you already kind of saw that this habitat contains, next to a pair of red-crowned cranes, it contains also a mute swan, which we got with the Eurasia Animal Pack, I think last year or 2 years ago. I can't remember anymore. But yeah, this habitat also contains a mute swan. And not in the sense of that the zoo mixed these two animals to have like a mixed species enclosure here. No, the idea behind that was that the mute swan is a wild swan, being the zoo being located in middle western centric European country. We have a lot of wild swans here. I think everywhere in Europe you have a lot of wild swans. So it's not unusual that you would have one just taking a stroll through the zoo, flying into different exhibits, things like that. And the idea here was that this is just a wild swan that at one point came into this red-crowned crane exhibit, and since exhibits in Planet Zoo are always basically stuck in time, there's no real progression in them, how they develop. This one, at the moment as you are visiting this zoo, there is a mute swan in this exhibit. Later on he would probably fly away or being chased away by the cranes, things like that. This was the idea, to have a little bit more movement in this exhibit, have a little bit more animals in this exhibit, having local wildlife invade this exhibit. Now, this was the plan, and I thought it would work until I came to placing the enrichment pieces for these animals. Great thing is that both animals share enrichment pieces, one of them being one of my favorite enrichment pieces in the game, which is the foraging pool, which you also know from the flamingos can use it, and also the mute swan and the red-crowned crane. So it was really cool. Two animals that we have in the exhibit can use the same enrichment, gives some a nice interspecies interactivity, and they are both feeding on it. It was a really cool idea. I thought it would look really nice. Until I placed that pool, decorated it nicely with rocks and things like that. There's a trick to hide the pool basically under foliage and rock work, so that it doesn't, it's visible anymore. And that was what I did with a lot of moss, plants, and rock work. Sunken into the water, looked really cool until I checked after I finished the recording. I checked, of course, of the traversability of this habitat, as I always do, to make sure everything is working. And then I saw that the pool wasn't interactivity, or the pool couldn't be reached by both species, the crane and the swan, which was weird because in the beginning it was interactive. They could interact with it before I placed all the plants and things like that. So I thought, maybe it is because of the rock work, maybe because of the plants, something is blocking them, which was weird because they could walk over it, they could had traversability over this area, so they could definitely get to there. The keeper also could fill it, despite him not doing that, though they couldn't interact with it. It was grayed out, or blacked out, I think in this game it is, when it's not interactable. So it was really weird. I tested a lot of stuff between recordings, what it could be, deleting all the plants, replacing the enrichment pool, placing it higher, things like that, making it look ugly here, sadly, until I thought maybe it is because yeah, something with the animals is bugged. It can happen sometimes. Sometimes between, say, closing the game and reloading it, reopening it. Sometimes the animals bug out a little bit. It also happens with climbing pieces. So I thought, okay, I get rid of the animals. I put them in the storage, and then I transfer them back into the habitat to see if that fixes things. And the cranes came in first. Interestingly, this is important later. The crane came in first, and everything worked. It was like, okay, it was just a bug. They bugged out for a moment, and everything works. The crane can use it. It was orange. Everything was good. Then the swan was transported into the exhibit, and suddenly neither the crane nor the swan could use this enrichment piece again. It was really weird. I don't know. I tried it again. And every time, the cranes were on themselves, they could use this enrichment item without any problems. But as soon as the swan was also there and the enrichment piece was also counted for the swan, it wasn't usable for both species, which is super weird. That if one species can't use the enrichment piece, the other one can't use it as well, despite them being two separate species. But yeah, this was the problem, that the swan apparently bugged out the enrichment piece, or it wasn't interactable for the swan because maybe it was too deep. It is swan's a little bit smaller and lower to the ground than the crane, so maybe that was the issue. I don't know. But the cranes in themselves could use the piece just fine, just without problems. So that meant I had to get rid of the swan and able to make the enrichment piece accessible for the cranes. So that's why you will not see the crane later in the real-time showcase or in the intro cinematic. It has been gotten rid of for good. It flew away, found a different spot because the crane scared it away. But yeah, this piece here I'm talking about, it was usable for them when I placed it. I tested it before, but after that, I don't know what happened. At some point, it wasn't interactable anymore for the swan, and then it was also not interactable again for the cranes, which is super weird. I think it's a bug. It might only be on my end, and maybe it's different for you. But always keep that in mind if you have enrichment pieces that are usable by 2 or more species in the same habitat. Anyway, let's talk about the habitat. Already halfway through, we already built the barriers. You already built the backstage building, which is a similar building that is in the real zoo of Schönbrunn. There is this storage building probably in the background, which we are now using as the backstage building for the red-crowned cranes, which doesn't really fit the Japanese feeling and Japanese theming, but it is basically an existing structure within the zoo, and just so the zoo just used it, and then I will later hide it with bamboo and other plants, so it isn't as noticeable with the whole Japanese theming of this area. But it is there. I wanted to include it because it isn't the real zoo, and it kind of fitted in that area, and it also fitted as a backstage building for the red-crowned cranes. So you saw me building an indoor separation area that is visible for the guests, and then we later also build an indoor storage, an indoor holding area that is not visible for the guests, where we can have the cranes during nighttime, things like that. For example, on all these things where you need them, but we can also separate them. For example, if there are young in the enclosure that need to be separated at some point, because cranes or red-crowned cranes are very not solitary but monogamous animals. I don't know, the game suggests that you can have up to 30 or 20 red-crowned cranes in an enclosure, which is similar to what you will see in real life when these cranes come together for breeding season. But in reality, or in normally, red-crowned cranes are monogamous. They mate for life, and they are also very hostile toward other cranes in their near distance, in their near vicinity. So if there is other crane coming near a pair of cranes who is breeding or has young or things like that, they chase them away very violently. So you should never have more than a pair of red-crowned cranes in your enclosure. If you want to do it realistically, if of course you're just doing it for the fun of it, you can have as many as you want. But in real life, you would never have more than 2 in an enclosure, because there would be rivalry, there would be fighting between the cranes because of its territory. So That's why I included the swan initially to have more animals in there, but as you see, it didn't work out. We're also reusing the Torii gate over here as kind of a centerpiece in the enclosure itself. So we modified it a little bit to make it less wide, to make it a little bit higher. And then we place it in the lake, which gives a nice, really nice silhouette and feeling to the enclosure, because you often have also Torii gates on lake sides. And together with the, I think it's the Scots pine over here, which is the only really tree that is bent in that way, which was very reminiscent of these Japanese trees that are bent through the wind and or through artificial means. And then you have this kind of picturesque Japanese lake scene, pond scene with the Torii gate, with the gnarly trees basically, and then we later add a lot of moss, we add a lot of lily pads, things like that. So it feels very garden-esque, but also wild, like a temple forgotten by time, for example, things like that. Now, speaking of temples, speaking of red-crowned cranes, speaking of Japanese culture, let's talk a little bit about the red-crowned crane, because it's something also that with the Tanuki in last video's episode. And the red-crowned crane is actually not only a symbol for Japan, but also for China and Korea, and all these cultures, it has the same trait, being seen as a symbol of luck, a symbol of longevity. In Japan, for example, is said to live over 1,000 years. And they are a sign of fidelity. So because they bond for life, they only have one partner their whole life. They're seen as a symbol of love, of partnership, things like that. And they are, basically one of the symbols and icons of Japan's culture. For example, there's a town called Tsusuri, I think it's called. I'm very bad at Japanese, so forgive me that. It's a very small town. It's a small town in Japan where there's a large breeding colony of red-crowned cranes, and there the red-crowned cranes are considered as one of the 100 soundscapes of Japan. And I had to look that up because I didn't really know what it was, but there's a list of 100 sounds and 100 musics, natural sounds and things like that. 100 of them that have been selected by a committee that are there to represent Japan, basically. It's there to go against the increasing sounds of noise of cars, of other work pollution, of modern pollution, noise pollution, by the way, but basically. And these 100 sounds represent Japan, represent the regions they are in, things like cicadas, specific music festivals, bell sounds, there's also I think water sounds, a lot of them, and a lot of bird sounds, and one of them is the red-crowned crane, because Japan, in contrast to mainland crane populations, Japan's crane population is non-migratory. They stay their whole life in Japan. For example, the ones in Korea or China, they're migratory. They wander when it's getting too cold. They're getting to warmer places. And the one in Japan, they stay all lives there, stay in the snowy regions. I think they're mostly common in the upper regions of Japan, Hokkaido and things like that. So they are seen as something that is always there, that is a symbol of great luck. If you see one dance, it means that you will have a lucky day, that something lucky will happen to you. So they harbor a great deal of importance for the people of Japan, which I think is really cool and really nice. They are really pretty birds, basically. By the way, I really like them, and Frontier did a great job with modeling them. And when they are mating in the game, they also do their signature dancing, which is marked by this jumping, up and down jumping, and the male and the female clapping their heads or their necks together. It's really cool if you see them mating in game. It's a really beautiful sign. But this is a little bit of fun facts about the Japanese crane, or about the red-crowned crane in Japan, and also in Korea and China, where they have been seen as the stuff of legends and myths for centuries, and centuries go on. We are now already in the final bits of the speed build. As I said, there wasn't not much to do here, just filling out the space with all these plants and rocks, and the backstage building, and the small bits of theming. So I will now leave you to the last couple minutes, I think a little bit of a minute left with a little bit of music, and then I will see you in the real-time part where we look at the finished build. Okay, and here we are now in our real-time part, and before we look at our Japanese crowned cranes, red crowned cranes over here, we have to do something that I forgot on the last episode, and I'm very sorry for that, and that is of course the naming of the animals as suggested by you. So we are jumping one episode in the past, with that being the Bighorn Sheep episode, and our first comment or first suggestion comes from Lisa Belfast, who asked with a lovely comment if we could name the male bighorn Arius after the star sign, which is also their star sign, which is super cute. That's fitting. So we of course will name our male Arius, which is of course the star sign of the ram. So it's fitting in two ways basically. The second one comes from a Bacon Bit Builder. And if you're following the channel, you might know this comment. They suggested a name for one of the giraffes in an earlier episode that wasn't really fitting. That was had a little bit of problematic meaning to it. So I asked them if they want to do a second suggestion for a different name. And they sent, it was I think something about Pacific Rim, and they said if you could name them after a different mech from that movie, which is Danger. I think that would be a fitting name. Max is already named, so we name one of the females. We name them Danger. Which they said maybe this giraffe is known for a little bit extra crazy at times, so giving it a little bit of a reasoning within this zoo. Now we are going to last week's episode with the Tanuki, and we have two suggestions. The first one coming from Kalufra. I still don't know how to pronounce the name correctly. Is talking about my little fun fact about Tanukis in last week's real-time part, and they suggest one name for the Sifakas. I don't know if you have them currently in. I don't think I have them in at the moment, so we jump into our animal trading area over here with the Coquerel Sifaka, and they suggest that we name one of them Pepper, which I will do after this episode. I don't want to wait yet now for them to be brought in to the habitat. I took them out because of FPS, but I will name one of the females Pepper, so that their suggestion is fulfilled also. And the last one comes from Nunovsky04, who asked if we could name one of the Tanukis, the male Tanuki. So in fact we could name him Chukaku, which is apparently the sand Tanuki tailed beast from Naruto. I watched Naruto as a kid, but I don't have that much in-depth knowledge about it. It was the time where I just watched any anime that went on that was on TV, so I believe them that it is correct, and so we name our male after that character from that show, with is, I hope I pronounce it right, Chukaku. I hope I 1K too much. Chukaku. So this is the name for our male Tanuki now. Okay, now back into our showcase of the habitat itself. We are here as last time, standing in front of the left to us is the giraffe part, behind us is the entrance, and now we have this Finnish Japanese area, which I'm very happy about how it turned out. It feels very cool. And one thing we did in last week's live stream was also adding this little aviary over here with Asian birds. We have some miners, for example, and some pheasants down here, so just a little simple aviary to fill out this space basically. And I also corrected the in-game sign for the red-crowned crane, although they look more like red-crowned goose. This is from the base game where we didn't have the red-crowned crane, so I don't know. I always thought this was supposed to be a red-crowned crane, because also there's the red spot and the right colorations, but the feet are all wrong. But in the speed build I ordered them up in the wrong order, basically from the last to the left. This was how they were in the building menu, but then I realized it was a mistake, so we now have the correct order here to have this mural of a group of red-crowned geese flying over a Japanese landscape. But we have our one viewing window over here, where we can see the two basically now wading through the water and going through the Torii Gate. That's good, it is walkable through them. This is basically just a little side view onto them. And then we also have the view into their indoor show shelter, basically. If they are kept indoors, then you can see them here with a little pool over there. Added some lamps and some leaf litter from the nearby foliage, and then this door leads to their actual backstage, basically. And here's also an access gate for them if we want to leave them out into the real habitat. But of course, the real viewing point comes if you walk on our zigzag bridge that we built last week. To the left are our Tanukis, and now to the right we have this, what I think is a really, it's a bit, I can say it for myself, it's a beautiful red-crowned crane enclosure with the gnarly Scots pine tree over here, this little fountain, or this little lantern, and the Tory gate framing, this lake, basically, this little pond for them over here. And here in the corner you have your foraging pool that caused me so many problems, hidden beneath all the foliage. And as I said, I'm hopping a little bit because of how the bridge is built, so we ignore that. But especially this view over here with the tree and the Tory gate, and then the red-crowned crane walking through it. I think it looks really cool, real nice how it turned out. I'm really happy about that. And this concludes our little Asian area. We can of course also take a view from the bell tower over here if we want to do that. But this concludes our little Asian area with these two animals representing Asia in our zoo. They're coming really close here, my friend. Don't peck at my feet. Maybe have to add some netting under here so that the guests are not pecked by the cranes. But I hope you enjoyed it. I cannot wait to see what we will do next time. What animal we will build. I have some ideas in mind, but have to decide which one I want to do. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope I see you in the next one. And then until then, you have a great time. You stay safe, and bye bye, everyone.